Hi, I'm AJ with Humbucker Soup. In this video, I want to teach you a few different things about selecting the right type of lumber for your guitar project. Of course, wood is an excellent material for building guitars, but there are a few things that you might want to know to save you some frustration later on. You don't want your guitar to end up looking like this. The first thing I want to look at is the way that the wood is cut at the mill. And there's two different types I want to focus on today, which is flat sawn and quarter sawn. So if you have a tree tipped over like this, and you cut into it in this direction, that's going to give you flat sawn lumber. On the other hand, if you cut into it like this, going towards the middle, that's going to give you quarter sawn. And this is a harder process, so it's going to make the wood a little bit more expensive. But why does it matter? Well, first of all, let's look at the way the grain works inside. So when it's tipped over like that, the grain is kind of in this circular pattern. So when you cut into it flat sawn, you get these cool, funky little shapes, and sometimes they can be really beautiful. And the end of the wood looks like this. On the other hand, with quarter sawn, you get more of these parallel grain lines, and the end of the wood looks like this. These are usually around 60 to 90 degrees. So in something like a guitar neck, if you have all of the grain running this way, and you have string tension pulling up on it, there's not a lot of resistance there. On the other hand, if you have the grain running this way, it's going to resist it a little bit better. Not to mention the way that the wood absorbs and releases moisture. So that's the next thing we want to talk about is the moisture content. And this can really affect the stability of the wood because if there's too much water in there, it affects the way that it adapts to different environments with temperature and humidity. And that can again cause warping, it can cause shrinkage. So something like a fretboard, if there's a lot of water in there and it expands or shrinks, that's what's going to give you your fret sprout, and that's no fun. So when you buy lumber for guitars, you usually want it to be somewhere around 6 to 10%. That will vary a little bit depending on the species, but somewhere in there should be pretty good. And there's a few different ways that they go about drying wood. Air dried is a very slow process, and it just basically is where the wood naturally releases its moisture. And it takes a really good environment for this to happen and happen well. On the other hand, if you have kiln drying, which is kind of like an oven where they can monitor both the temperature and humidity for this process, and it's a much faster process. The downfall is you're kind of rushing it a little bit, but since it's monitored, it usually works out pretty well. The other thing is with the temperatures of the kiln, it's going to kill anything inside, like bugs or different things that you don't want to be in there. And the next process up from that is either roasting or torrefication, where they use high heat to really dry the wood out. And it's so high that it actually changes the color of the wood a little bit. But it also changes the cellular structure and is supposed to make it a lot stronger and more stable, especially in different types of environments. And it also makes it a little bit more resonant, which is one thing. If you have a ton of water inside your guitar body, it's going to make it heavy, and it's really not going to resonate that well, so the tone isn't going to be all that great. As far as what type of cut that you want for a guitar body, since the body is a really thick piece of wood, it's going to be a little bit more stable by nature. And the flat sawn beautiful grain patterns might work a little bit better looks-wise. And for the cost, usually you're better off just getting flat sawn. With necks, I mentioned quarter sawn is better, but with flat sawn, you do still have a truss rod, and if you wanted to use any type of reinforcement rods, it will help keep the bowing down. Fretboards, it's not super important, but these are just things to know about. So if you want to check the moisture content yourself, they do have gauges you can buy online. This one is just a probe, and it will give you an electrical readout. You just kind of stick it in the side of the wood, and on the right setting, it'll tell you how much moisture is in there. So I hope you found something in this video useful, and we'll see you next time.